So good to see you guys. We are getting back to our design challenge here. This is our second session of doing this design work. Um, the very first thing, if folks, if you haven't already done it, and we'll come back around to this, I'd like you to submit your design. Just submit the link to your design guide now on Canvas on 14.1 because I want to be able to review them over the weekend so I can give guidance next week. We'll have both class sessions next week for building. So I just want to make sure. I'm hoping to check in with everybody like one-on-one on Tuesday just to, you know, maybe give you some tips or just to answer questions or hear more about your vision. So if you haven't already, if you go to 14.1 on Canvas and just submit the link to your design guide so I can check them out and give you guys some hopefully some useful feedback. Alrighty, so today we're gonna do a review of the concept of human-centered design, otherwise known as sort of design process or design thinking. We're gonna get into the next two steps in this process. That is the third step, the ideation phase, the fourth step, which is prototyping, and we're gonna look at it more as planning for our prototype because we'll actually be building our prototype next week. Similar to Tuesday, today is more of a guided class than previous class sessions. So, usually I talk for a little bit or whatever, and then most of the class is work time. I've got sort of structured activities for us today. So it asks, I'm asking that we attempt to stay together as much as we can, though I understand that these are unique times and a unique format and whatnot. But for the most part, this will be less guided than Tuesday, but there is a guided element to tonight's class. Alrighty, got some riddles and corny jokes for you. You can call them out or put them in the chat. Our first one is, how do you make 7 even? No math whizzes out there? Okay, Grace got it. Very good. You got to take the S away, and then all of a sudden 7 is even. Very good, Grace. All right, let's try another one here. What month of the year has 28 days? The answer is not February. Bethany got it. In fact, all months have at least 28 days. Very good. All right, our last riddle or corny joke of the day. What is always in front of you but can't be seen? Oh, Conrad with an interesting answer. I hadn't considered that. I have a different answer, but I will accept Conrad's answer. If anyone has a different answer. In front of you, but can't be seen. It's always in front of you. In fact, James sent it as a direct message, but it is, in fact, James is correct. It is the future. The future is always in front of you. Can't, unless you're clairvoyant. Anyway, all right, moving into today's session. So a bit of review. We spent, this is the end of our 14th week. We spent 14 weeks together, gotten a foundation in computer science through understanding a series of concepts. We built a series of apps where you've been able to sort of, apply those concepts or see how they come together. What I hope that you've taken away, and a part of this class I'm hoping to continue to improve on, is the apps that you use on a day-to-day basis, or that are just like sort of a part of our lives at this point, foundationally, like conceptually, logically, they're not really that complicated. The platforms that we build them on are, but the actual ability to build a functional app with multiple screens where they go between each other and collects data and it like performs some sort of function, it's really not that sophisticated in terms of like the design of it and what's going on beneath the surface. These are things that you can pretty quickly start to build yourself if you have basic understanding of computer science. Certainly would encourage you to take more computer science so you can do it maybe a bit more professional level. But I think that what you guys have shown so far, you guys are building apps that are real apps that, like, with the pro account, like you could put these up on the App Store or the Google Play Store, and I don't know if people are going to buy them, but I mean it's there. Like the behind the scene machinery is there, and you guys can really build things. So what we're trying to do here is apply all of the knowledge you've gained this semester to something real. So there's the computer science side of app development, but there's also the design side. So we're thinking about who we're designing for. So we have all these skills and knowledge. Like, how do you apply it in sort of a meaningful way? And there's a concept known as human-centered design. You also hear it referred to as design thinking. And the idea is, how do you center the individual? So how do you empathize with a potential user and anticipate what their experience is going to be in work in interacting with your app. So you're designing to essentially, people say to solve a problem. I would say to address a challenge, maybe a little softer language, but you're building for somebody else. And so there are defined processes for doing this, for considering who your user or client is. These processes are taught at Stanford, the Stanford Design School. MIT is very common. And if you end up working on the sort of the design side or the engineering side at Google or Apple or Facebook or any of those companies, they're all, they have their own ways of teaching design thinking, but it's embedded in their process. We're thinking through features and products and whatnot. So we're applying your knowledge that you've gained this semester and trying to apply it in a meaningful way. All right. So 5 parts to the design process. On Tuesday, we went through empathize and define. Today, we'll be working on ideate and prototype. And as we've done with many of our apps, eventually you will share your final app and we'll get to test it all together with some feedback. Steps just defined. Empathizing is walking in your client's shoes or thinking about what their experience is. You need to go through a series of steps to define what your client's needs and sort of problems are. Today we're focused on ideating, which is dreaming up solution to your client's challenges. Prototype, making a model of your solution to show or share. We focused on the question of how might we help people thrive mentally and physically in the midst of COVID-19. So we have like a larger frame that we're working within, and within that we're trying to identify specific challenges that our client might have so that we can build something for them. On class 26, thinking about the project timeline here, we started out with the empathy and define steps. Today we'll be doing ideate and planning. Class 28 and 29 you'll be able to build. I've been struggling with trying to find, if this was like a more formalized design process, you'd be expected to do a pitch. So you would get up in front of a group and you would explain, this is the app that I have in mind, this is the challenge that I built it to address, and here's all the features, and here you might imagine it's worked this way, and then you get feedback. And I've struggled to think of a way that would be not just busy work for you to do more work. And I couldn't come around to, like, I just didn't feel like you making a video or a slide deck was really, like, what's the point of that? So I will expect, like, there's a reflection on like the app process. So you'll be expected to do a small amount of writing, but I think we're going to skip like the big pitch step. It's just doing this on, it's a feature of doing this online versus in person. For in person, I think it makes a lot more sense. Online, it's just sort of more sitting on Zoom. So I'm not going to ask you guys to do that. I will ask you after the 29th class, where next Thursday, a week from now, when you guys have something built, a final graded activity will be to give feedback. So if you have an idea what we're going up to, we're cutting out the things you'll submit are the design guide. If you haven't submitted it, I know they're not complete, but if you would submit it now at 14.1 on Canvas, and that way I can look at it over the weekend and give you feedback. You'll submit with, as with most app projects, you will submit an app. We're looking for an MVP. That's a minimally viable product. It's not supposed to be perfect, but it should be at a level where the user can go through it and have an idea what would happen if you had a lot more time and money to develop it. But the idea is to give someone an idea, or yes, the idea is to give the tester an idea of what would happen in the full version. There'll be some sort of reflection on your process or your experience, and I'll whip that up. All righty. So on Tuesday, we did our first design session. And the first thing I asked you to do is create a design challenge guide. I think everyone has that's here tonight. And make sure you've changed the sharing settings to anyone can view. And if you have not submitted on Canvas, just if you could submit it now, I just want access to that link so I can check them out over this weekend and make sure that you're in a good place, figure out how I can give support. So if you haven't done that, please do that. I'm cutting out where we had started. So here on the guide, it says specific things I need you to do on that guide. And you guys have hopefully worked these first 4. There was one that was asking you to post a link to your brainstorm Padlet, and I'm switching that. I thought about it and I'm switching that activity. So this is not something you need to do. I've already set up some brainstorm Padlets for you guys. You will today be doing these other 3 parts. So that will be on your design guide that you hopefully are submitted. We talked about the idea of empathy being central to the design process. So because you need to sort of put yourself in the user's shoes or kind of anticipate what they're feeling. We talked a little bit about the theory behind empathy and the idea that we know empathy is a real thing and not just like a made up thing on the basis of a couple well, one very famous, obviously Charles Darwin and other researchers, this idea that wherever you go in the world, people generally have the same facial expressions, which are a reflection of the same emotions and mean the same thing. And because we have the same facial expressions and same sort of expression of emotion, when you look at somebody, you can generally anticipate, unless they're trying to trick you, how they're feeling. And that allows us conceptually to empathize, because we can understand what someone is feeling by listening and watching them, because we have the same patterns to our expression. So thusly, empathy is not just, it's more than just a feeling. It's actually something that we can do. We can empathize as a process. It's a real thing. We can anticipate what someone is feeling or thinking by watching and listening to them. We took some time to explore some clients. So we had 6 different options. I start off just modeling with Nico, and people, what's really cool is people picked all 6 clients are represented. So we are building for real people that are and it was pretty well spread out. Like people obviously took time and learned about their clients and picked a client to focus on. That's really, really cool. On a Padlet, we start off with we did a client empathy Padlet. So you start off watching a series of videos and taking notes, and then you sort of cluster those notes together. The process we were calling defining, or in the process of defining a problem for them, you took the notes, you clustered them into. Let me go on to the next thing here. You guys collected, and then you clustered the notes about your client, so that you had you could see some patterns in what the client's needs were. We took those patterns that we saw in the client's needs, and we defined a point of view. We created a problem statement, so that we had something to build for. So the problem statements looked something like this. There was the person's name, needs a way to verb about a deeper problem in a way that lets them do something. And you guys did an awesome job on this part. We captured them on this. Can I get out of here, please? Okay. So I captioned them on this Padlet, and everyone has access to this, but everyone did a fantastic job. Like, your problem statements clearly just show a lot of thinking. You really took some time to get to know your clients, and as I said, there's a pretty good spread about across of the clients. Like, every client is represented here. So you did a great job on that and coming up with a problem statement. That's really, really cool. All right. So with that said, we're going to jump into today's sort of guided portion here. We are jumping into session 2. The first concept I want to introduce to you is ideation. Actually, before we get into that, are there any questions about what they're doing, or anything questions about what we're doing, what we did Tuesday? Questions generally? Okay, I'm going to jump into this, introduce the concept of ideation.
Ideate is the 3rd step in the design process. To ideate means to form ideas. This is a brainstorming step. Use your imagination and let the ideas flow. Go wild. This is not a time to hold back. It's time to cut loose and imagine as many wild and crazy solutions to the problem as you can. Some ideas won't work, but that doesn't matter. Some of the craziest ideas do work and create something brilliant. The goal is to have a lot of ideas and a variety of approaches while staying focused on your client and problem. After you have a ton of design concepts, look for patterns and group them into categories. This is only the first try, so don't get trapped into finding something perfect. Focus on the best solution and keep it moving. Let's build.
All righty. So we're going to do some ideation. So we're moving on. So you've defined a problem, and we are going to ideate some potential solutions to that problem, something that could be developed through an app, because that's our platform for this class. I want to show you a couple things are going to happen. We are going to do a practice brainstorm activity all together. So I've got a problem for us. I just want us to practice with brainstorming. I'm going to show you a video of other people doing the same exercise, so you kind of have an idea of what we're going to do. After we've practiced brainstorming, you got your brains going, I'm going to split you guys into groups based on who your client is, and I want you guys to brainstorm on the same Padlet. So you're sort of brainstorming together, but the idea is that I want you to see a lot of ideas in one place for how to address similar problem. And so obviously your problem statements are a little bit different, but I just want you to get to see a lot of different ideas in one place. So you don't have to come to any kind of consensus as a group, but you're gonna do some brainstorming in the same place just so you can see a lot of different ideas. Let me click past this for a second. Let's talk about what happens in a really effective brainstorm environment. So just as some framing in like really effective brainstorming, there's a creative brainstorm space. There's no judgment. You're just throwing ideas out there. It could be the craziest wild idea. It doesn't matter. Just throw your ideas out there because you guys have a generally similar problem statements. Is like broad as you can get your ideas as possible. Like this should be a space where you just come up with crazy stuff, and like it may relate, it may not relate, but you should just really feel free in your thinking to come up with crazy ideas. If you see someone that someone else writes or contributes, that's cool. Build on it. There's no cheating or copying in this assignment. Like build on each other's genius. If someone says something or writes something that sparks your idea, add to it. It'd be awesome if you did that. We do want to stay focused on the general topic, which is solving a problem for one of our clients. But in this case, interestingly, you may not hear this in a lot of things, but we're going for quantity. So the more ideas you can generate, they don't have to be great ideas. So just get your ideas out there, as many ideas, because you're going to synthesize these ideas ultimately afterwards. It's not about having one great idea. It's about having 60, however many decent ideas, and like combining them to be something really cool. So I want to show you, just wanted to note that because I want to show you brainstorming in action. We're going to do a little brainstorming together, and then you guys will break into your groups. So let's watch a little brainstorming in action.
All right. The local zoo, the visitors are down 20%. So how might we boost the number of visitors to the zoo? This is a serious problem for them. They want to stay open. They need more funding, all this kind of good stuff. So let's spend a few moments now first and get a few ideas down. Remember, we're going for quantity. Let's see how many ideas we get. Also, there's so many good ideas out there. Let's push ourselves. Try to get closer to the ridiculous. That might be really great. So I'll start us off. I had date night. Very cool.
What about zoo pop-up at places that kids frequent? Home Depot, I know, has programs for little kids to build like houses and stuff like that. So it could be all these different crafts, but they're sort of animal lessons. So kids learn.
I have a overnight. Let's get 5 or 10 more.
So I think your loyalty cards went for airlines and for burritos. So why not more for the zoo? For an hour every day, they vacate the cages. You get to go swing on like the bars and everything with the monkeys. It's your turn playground.
What we'll do next is look for some themes and cluster a couple, and then I think we should prototype 1 or 2 of these, and then take them over to the zoo. It's gonna be great.
All right, so that was a sort of a warm up, sort of a silly idea of what a group brainstorm might look like. I'm being told the audio went in and out. Sorry about that. I hope you just generally saw that people like came up with stuff and they just threw it against the wall and tried to come up with something. So we're gonna do this together. We're gonna do just a quick warm up brainstorm just to get your minds flowing that way. Came up with a problem statement. It's pretty generalized, so it's go a lot of different directions. So the problem that we are gonna brainstorm for as a class, and would love your participation in this, but also understood if it's not totally where you're at, but I got a feeling you guys are gonna come up with some great ideas. So students of CS 107 need a way to celebrate their hard work and accomplishments in this class in a way that can be done virtually. So how can we celebrate virtually? So what I'm gonna ask you guys to do is I'll put this in the chat actually. We got to go to bit.ly bit.ly/107 brainstorm challenge. I'll put this in the chat right now. So everyone should find their way there. and we're gonna try to come up with some ideas. We're gonna brainstorm ideas to address this problem. So I've got this Padlet here. Everyone should find their way to this Padlet. It's a bit.ly/107 brainstorm challenge. We want to find a way, need a way to celebrate your hard work and accomplishment in class in a way that can be done virtually. So please find your way here. And what we want to do over the next 2 minutes, I should put up I wish I had a better 2-minute timer sitting around. I'll set it on my phone here. I want us to come up with as many crazy ideas for how we could celebrate you guys in this class virtually, just as an attempt to do some brainstorming together. So everyone should be here. I think everyone has the ability to add a post. So why don't we take 2 minutes? The 2 minutes start now, and just brainstorm ideas. How can we celebrate this virtually? And so just write your craziest stuff, and let's see what comes up here. So let's see here. There we go. We got some updates on the path. Come up with some stuff here. All right. So what can we do here? A crazy way to celebrate accomplishments in this class. I'm gonna say diplomas delivered by pigeon. That would be kind of crazy. And then we could do obviously maybe some DoorDash desserts through people. We could do that. What else could we do? We could all right, I'm seeing some good stuff here. I'm seeing some good stuff. Add your crazy wildest idea. Some bingo, movie night, giant Kahoot. Okay, this is very good. Keep throwing ideas here. How can we celebrate? I'm digging this so far. Give it another 30 seconds. All right. Okay, we've got but thank you guys very much for participating. And if you look here, you'll see that there's some consistent ideas here. We have games instead of class, which is pretty good. Ooh, this is a great one. List of self-care activities, a great idea how we could celebrate. I'm seeing games, music, online board games, food that everyone could eat together, potentially things that we could all do together in the fall. Who wrote that? Was that, goodness me, actually I wrote that, but I was just coming up with some crazy ideas here, and I'm seeing a decent amount of crazy ideas, but this is really good. And the volume, the quantity of ideas, we're hoping for something even bigger when you brainstorm. So this is pretty good for 2 minutes, but you want to be able to throw as many ideas out there as possible. Okay, so that was just a little warm up for brainstorming. You guys are gonna do something different. So I've got Padlets assigned for each group. So I'll show you what that looks like. So let's see here. I've got these Padlets set up, and I'll show you how to navigate them for a second. What I did was I just copied over the statements, and a couple of these, I did this before some of them came in, so I didn't get all the problem statements, but just if you need something to refer back to. So there's one of these for Nico and Mo, Mohammed, Yasmin, Benjamin, and Arturo. So there's one for each. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in a breakout room with those people who also are doing this, and I want you to come up with as many crazy ideas as you can to solve for these sort of problems that you have defined. I think something that would be really useful just in this process is if you would open up the videos for your person, and I think that like these will, if you need like some inspiration or like some, to like reset to where you were at with your thinking on Tuesday, you can that's one option for the way to get there. But I'm going to set up these breakouts, and the goal is to come up with at least 10 ideas. And obviously you're in a group, so you can add more to it. Remember, you can add on to each other's ideas. You're trying to steal, copy, build, be wild, be crazy, put as many ideas as you can on your brainstorm for what your app will build for. Trying to dream big here. So crazy ways you can imagine to solve your client's problem, different solutions, combine ideas, looking for at least 10. We're not going to bother with this. Where did it go? Oops. Okay. Okay. So if you are these groups, in this group, I'm going to ask you to open up your Padlet now. So you should have access. So if there's the same, I did the same. So it's like Nico brainstorm, or Mo brainstorm, Yasmin brainstorm, or Turo brainstorm, and so on. I want you to find your way there. I'm going to build your breakout rooms right now, and then we will open them in a minute. And you can start adding now. Alrighty. I hope you guys had a little time there to define, to put into words what you imagine the app that you're building for your client, what you imagine that will look like, or what that will be. We're going to move on to part 4. I'm going to go over moving into the planning phase, and this will be just do a little bit here, and you have the rest of class and obviously the weekend to plan out, and we'll be building in class next week. So just to review, at this point, hopefully you've taken this brainstorm of great ideas that you got to do with a couple of your peers, narrowed it down to a couple ideas, and combined those perhaps into the ultimate idea, which you can imagine happening in an app form. And remember, in your app, we're building in what's called an MVP, so minimally viable product. It's not a fully functional app that it's not intended to be perfect. There's some little things, there's some specific things I'm hoping that I'd like to see within the app, but really, I want you to go through this process and get as deep as you can in a meaningful way. But this is like this is intro to computer science for non-majors. You're not expected to make something perfect, but something cool that you care about, that like feels like this is the final product from this class that you did, type of thing. All righty. So let's talk a little bit about planning prototypes. We kind of do, this is, to be honest with you, something I'd like to improve for this class. I think it's a lot easier this is something that, again, just I feel like we go a lot better in person. It's just hard to do this type of thing virtually. So there's some like really common forms of prototyping within design thinking. Again, I'm not going to ask you to do this, but I just wanted you to kind of see what in like a more formalized design environment, what this would look like. So some ways that people approach the prototyping within design thinking is through storyboarding and paper prototyping. So like a storyboard, very simply, would be like telling the story of the app. So the user, I don't actually know what this is storyboarding per se, but like this would be a very basic form of a storyboard of like what happens when the user, what is the moment or the environment or the situation where the user would use the app, how would the app help in that situation, and like how would the app resolve whatever the challenge is. Some people will use storyboarding. We're not going to do that because I think, I don't know, just doing it virtually, it's not translating. So anyway, just so you know, storyboarding is a very common form of prototyping, because this is where you can get feedback. You can tell the story this way of what the app will do. You get feedback on features and what it should do and whatnot. Another really common form of like prototyping is what you call paper prototyping. So you would like design each screen on paper, and then you would like present it to a potential user and be like, all right, well, you want it. So this is a language learning app, and they would kind of walk through the process of what they would experience within the app, but we do it on paper. So if we were in person, we would do this. We'd probably do both those steps, but again, this is something that just doesn't translate well online or in virtual environments, but this is something that is very common in the design process. So you're able to get feedback on what the user experiences without actually having an app built. But so this is common, and we're not gonna do that. It's okay. What I have asked of you, things that I do think capture a bit of the planning process that's imperfect, but I think there's some value to it, is in 4.1, I'm asking you to plan some screens out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I kind of want to give you an idea. Don't worry about the image thing. Don't worry about it. That's just like a reminder to me for next time. But what I do want you to do is to name your screen and like simply explain what the user might be able to do. Let me go to my copy here. So So I was thinking about Nico, and I was like, well, yada yada. This app that I was thinking about for Nico would be allow him to plan a party virtually. So it was like you can, on the assumption that we eventually, well, yada yada, people in person having like some sort of party. But I was like, okay, this guy has so many interests and he has so many friends and he wants to connect people. What if you had this app where it was like you like start up, it's like a template party planner, and like people, you can add people to this app, or like people can join into sort of the app. And it's like, all right, so you have this new, you're planning this party for CS 107, right? And then you can pick roles. So someone's in charge, people are going to be in charge of music or food or games or activities or like the logistics. People can pick roles. And then for each like element of the party, there's a different screen. So maybe there's a screen for like assigning the roles or putting together music playlists or suggesting food or like even ordering food online. And it's like, okay, so then when should we have this party? So it's sort of like a doodle poll type of thing where it's like, all right, you give people some columns and they decide, like they click through when they would be available to come to this party, or like what the time frame should be, or you could like vote on it or stuff, all stuff you guys know how to do, because it's like there's a variable for people who want to meet on this day, and the more people click on it, the variable goes up. But you guys do this, you've done this many times, yada yada. Here's the idea that I had. That's why I was like just going through what each screen would look like. Probably need a login screen. And the value of the login screen is you have the user ID that when anyone makes a post, it's connected to them. So all these people who are using the app, you can, whatever they put into the app or whatever they're planning for this party, they could, you guys know how to do that already. You guys know about the register screen. You all know how to do that. Some sort of like launch screen where you name the party and like define some characteristics of the party, like an invite people screen where you can add like, create a list with a list viewer of all the people you want to invite, and like maybe be able to input information like their emails. You can put that in a database, which all stuff you guys know how to do. Party planning roles. You remember the bus stop app had all those drop downs. Like people could go in, pick a role off a drop down. It goes like just shows it obviously saves to a database, but then you just pull that information, you show it on a screen like Rothman, he's in charge of I don't know, the coleslaw or something like that, or people could pick their roles, and you guys already know how to do that. The one thing you don't know how to do, unfortunately, we didn't go deep over, is how to integrate maps, but you could have a location planner where people put in like, I don't know, suggestions for where they'd want this place to be, or you could take their addresses and put them on a map, which there is a tutorial which I added, which if you're interested, it's there. It's actually pretty easy to do. And you can put, it will take, like locations on a map, like latitude, and then it'll put it on a map. So you can render this map and you're like, all right, here's the 6 people. How can we triangulate? Where should we should do this thing? For all stuff you guys know how to do. Or, well, if you do that tutorial, you'd figure it out. But so that was me planning out the screens. I want you to do the same sort of process because I think it just helps refine the idea and where things are at. The next part was like just planning out the events on the screen, which is pretty light pseudocode, but I was just thinking through like basic stuff that's going to help you when you start to actually code your app, because then you'll have a reference point for at least the basic things that should be there, like which buttons need to be on the screen. So you guys have seen a login screen before. So we did it twice last week. Needs a login button, a register button, and a reset password button. Or you might need the register screen, something you've now done twice. Pretty straightforward. And I just started thinking through like the basics of what might be on each screen. And I kind of got a little crazy with it, so I had to add more screens. But this is what I'm asking of you guys to do. I want you to do a little planning along those lines. So you'll plan out your screens. I added this, and it's probably a little dense to go over, but if you were looking for a reference to all these things that you've done that might be cool to add into an app, just have to go back and take a look at the code or take a look at the tutorial that we did. Like you guys have done all of this. You're not doing it from scratch. If you have an idea what you want to add, just go back to that lesson and look at the code. You guys have done a lot of really relevant stuff. I did add some more concepts that I'm realizing just in 14 weeks, there just wasn't enough time, but so other professors teach this class and they do other cool stuff and they kind of make their choice about what should be in here. And I think this one in particular, I will add, and this is when it ever pulls up, this is a Meet My Classmates app. But what's really cool
in this video I'm going to show you
about this is that you can, why was this one important? Because you can put a map screen. This videos 8 through 10 show you how to put a map screen into your app, and it allows you to add things from, it allows you to add like things from positions, locations. It shows you how to add locations for each person or whatever, and it puts them on pins in a map, and then it renders it in Thunkable. So if you're interested in that, I actually put that in Canvas. And then there's another one that shows you how to add images from the internet to the note taker. It's all Professor Wilbur. So there's another USF professor, and he kind of teaches in a similar way to me. So if you want to add more app concepts, it's a way to get to them. I was also going to mention, okay, I'm so sorry. There was a lesson that we didn't do. It's called the web viewer, if you're looking for it. And this shows you how to like put a window on a page of an app, and you can pull up from any web page. Well, a lot of web pages. We didn't do it because I feel like there was something wrong with the API, and I couldn't get really cool, like normal stuff like YouTube to work. Maybe they fixed it in the last 3 or 4 months. I don't know, but like there wasn't enough cool stuff so we skipped this lesson, but maybe they fixed it now, and you could figure out how to put a page in your app that literally is just like a way to access a web page. If you want to show a YouTube video, for example, you could embed it right in your web page, or ESPN or whatever. You could do it through this lesson. And I had one more lesson. If you think back to our first week of class, when we started doing the tutorials, there was some cool stuff here. I don't know if you need translation services in your app, but maybe you want to put translation services in your app. You guys know how to do that. We did that one. And this one could be really cool. I don't know how you use it, but the camera and image recognition. Remember when you take a picture of something and it tells you what it is, like sort of this deep machine learning thing? Thunkable can do that. So lots of cool stuff you could add to your app. And with that, I'm going to wind down my little spiel here. You'll do some planning of the code. Remember, or rather just as a note, I'm looking for at least 3 screens in your final app. The use of conditionals, variables, 1 procedure, 1 list, and 1 database feature. You can just put in a local database. You don't have to get all crazy with the Firebase. If you want to do something really simple, that's fine. But I want you to apply basic concepts in a meaningful way. And with that, please make sure you've already submitted your design challenge guide, even if it's not done. I just want to be able to review it on the weekend so I can give you some feedback. We made it through parts 3 and part 4 today. If you have not done it already, I've seen, I guess half people have. There's the teacher effectiveness survey. Whew, it's a lot of talking from me. Thank you guys for putting up with me. And I'm going to stop talking. I will be here for I'll be here at 6:15. You're welcome to leave early if that's what you need to do. And then I'll stay later. Thank you guys. Sorry I talk so much. Lots going on. And good luck.
Thank you, Professor.